Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of The Studio Life. In today's episode, we're diving into one of the most important technologies in the world of production, live streaming, and podcasting. It's a game changer in so many ways, and you might be surprised at just how much it's revolutionized the way we work. And that technology is called NDI. In the world of production, major groundbreaking changes actually don't come around all that often. Yeah, sure, things improve, but fundamentally, much of what we use hasn't dramatically changed. But NDI is kind of a beast all unto its own. NDI basically replaces wires. How cool is that? And if we break this thing down, NDI stands for Network Device Interface. It allows media to be transmitted over a local network. Not just a local network, but a network. Not just video, not just audio, but really anything. If you've got NDI enabled cameras, you can literally plug them into your network switch and boom, they're available anywhere. If you have a device that isn't NDI enabled, no problem, because we have devices like the Kiloview E3, which takes HDMI signals and SDI signals and converts them into NDI. That easy. Now you have your sources. You have the cameras with NDI built in. You've got anything you've converted. You've got your computer screens. You can simply download a free application and they're on NDI. And all of this is ready to be added to your live production. You can record those sources. You can share them, integrate them seamlessly. Now this is sort of like Dante, which is audio-based, NDI, which is sort of general media, and in particular, video-based. But unlike Dante, NDI is kind of like 1,000 times easier. There's no need for master clocks and custom network settings, or even paid apps. The video's just there. It doesn't need to be routed anywhere. Any device can access any signal super easily. Now, there are a lot of real-world applications here. When I talk about groundbreaking, it means there has to be some real-world application and benefit. So let's talk about how this works in real-world production. vMix can detect NDI signals and integrate them into a production super effortlessly. You want to add more sources? Just install NDI Tools, which is a free new tech application, and suddenly your computer can send video or even a screen capture or a PowerPoint, anything you want over the network. It's really that simple. In other words, recording individual camera and video signals. Now, even vMix can take any signal, including any NDI signal, and make it available to its internal recorders, or it can output it via any one of its outputs. But here in our studio, we use the Kiloview recorder, which we all have to admit is not cheap at like $2,500, but it records up to 9 NDI sources. That's far more cost effective than buying 9 hyperdecks just to record ISO signals. Those 9 signals can include everything that you can imagine that could fit into your production. And from a safety perspective, we love it because every one of our ISOs is recorded without ever having to use some external recorder. So even though we're not using NDI necessarily as part of our production, we do like SDI because it has no latency. The fact that we have an NDI signal means every signal is backed up immediately every single time. You know, with a simple plugin, Adobe Premiere, After Effects, and Character Generator, for instance, can take their output screen and put it onto NDI. Even programs such as DaVinci Resolve, which don't have NDI natively built in, can use simple plugins in order to take their feeds and put it onto NDI. So what does that mean in real life? Well, in real life, if you have a graphic in After Effects with an alpha layer, such as a lower third, that can be put onto NDI and brought into your production, and you can immediately take that as an overlay. That means somebody could be working on the lower thirds while your production is going on. Now, we have a whole other video out there on character generators and the benefits of certain character generators such as vMix, which is sort of changing the landscape. But what this means is that a lot more applications can be used as character generators, including things like After Effects and Premiere, now in real time, pushing graphics into your live stream. If your switcher supports it, the NDI cameras can receive tally signals. In other words, the operators will know when their camera's live without having to run any other tally system. It just automatically knows that. If you have PTZ cameras, NDI even allows for remote camera control, although we actually prefer using a dedicated controller. We use ours, which is made by Skorhoy, which is the PTZ Extreme. But apart from dedicated controllers, the fact that you can simply go into NDI and control those cameras is pretty darn cool. NDI lets you send and receive sources all over the internet, meaning you can connect and control remote feeds from anywhere. And what's an example of that? Well, maybe you have cameras in your studio and you want to control them from your house. So you can take those signals and you can bring them into your live streaming operation or your production system anywhere else in the world. At any one time, we have 4 Canon N500 PTZ cameras, all equipped with NDI on the floor, ready to go. We also have NDI encoders, such as this Kiloview E3. All of our computers run Nutec's NDI tools. In other words, they can both send their signals via NDI and they can monitor NDI. They can see any signal, any program feed, anything that we're doing in the studio. In other words, with just a few taps, we can bring all of these signals into a production and switch between them seamlessly. Now, speaking of switching seamlessly, I mentioned earlier that we do not use NDI necessarily to switch. We tend to use NDI predominantly as a backup system. So all of our cameras are constantly sending out an NDI source for our Kiloview recorder to back them up. So that's our primary source of NDI on a video signal. Then we get into, of course, the computer signal. So now if someone wants to show a PowerPoint or something like that, we don't have to worry about that being in sync. There's no in sync to PowerPoint, right? And if it's playing a movie, then it's automatically in sync because the video and the audio are traveling together. So from our perspective, NDI is predominantly a backup source inside the room and a primary source for computer screens. Any NDI source can be turned into a virtual webcam. As a matter of fact, NDI Tools allows for up to 4 virtual webcams at a time. So if you're running vMix or another switcher, you can send another program feed in the NDI format, or you can convert a teleprompter feed from a computer into NDI, and you can take PowerPoint slides and make them NDI. And all of these can become a webcam source. In other words, every one of these sources, whether it's an individual camera or an individual feed or a program feed, can become a webcam source. That's a huge deal. It basically turned Zoom into a broadcast distribution platform. It's not for one camera, it's for whatever you choose to give it. Your phone with a little application that costs like $20 is another brand new camera that can be used in any production. All you have to do is install the NDI HX application, like $20, and you have a camera that's always ready to go into your production. No wires, no nothing. We monitor with NDI all of the time. It's where NDI really shines. Now, traditionally, we use something called the Teradek Cube to stream high-quality video all over our local network for client monitoring. We've had our clients install this little app on their phones or their devices, and they could see whatever signal we put through the cube. But it's really expensive, and it's just one feed at a time, unless you're combining that into like a director's monitor. But with NDI, clients can install NDI Monitor on their phones or their iPads or iOS devices or probably Android devices, their computer with different applications which can then monitor NDI, including NDI Monitor from Nutec, which is a free application, fully available. And then they could see any signal. They just go to NDI Monitor and pick the source that they'd like to see. So we don't have to worry. It's free. Another area where we use monitoring is through the Bird Dog system. BirdDog offers a variety of products in these little tiny devices. Just look at the network and look for NDI feeds. And they have an HDMI cable that plugs into televisions and projectors and whatever you can want. And you just go into the little web app and you tell it what NDI feed to look at, and next thing you know, that's on your screen. Of course there are downsides to NDI. NDI is not perfect. Our number one challenge when it comes to NDI is latency. It's not real time. There's a delay. Anytime you're going through the network, there's a delay, and that can cause some audio sync issues. You need to make adjustments to compensate, and most consoles, most software applications, allow you to add a delay to the video or an audio signal to try to achieve perfect audio sync. Another downside is reliability. While stable, NDI is not as rock solid as, let's say, an SDI cable, especially on a crowded network. An SDI signal is uncompressed, and an NDI signal is compressed. At least a regular NDI signal. A full NDI signal uses a lot more bandwidth and probably achieves something much closer to an uncompressed signal. Now, even a compressed signal is great for live streams, but it's not ideal necessarily for ultra high quality cinema productions. And so those are some downsides to NDI. And before I say my goodbyes, let me just say we don't use NDI as part of a primary stream for a live production. We rely on the SDI cables and we enjoy the fact that there's no latency. But by being able to record those NDI signals without extra recorders, we know that we're able to achieve a perfectly in-sync recording of every source all at one time. And while our program feed might have a slight delay because it's a program feed and it's gone through the system, we know that that can easily be realigned and everything is perfect in the event we needed to recut a production. So the delay in our case is not a downside. It's just part of the process. And so overall, it's one of the best pieces of technology that we have here in our studio. Now, thank you very, very much for tuning in. Don't forget to check out all of the resources in the description below. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. We're geeks. If you want more geeky content, that's the only way to find out what we're talking about. Anyway, from Manhattan Beach Studios, I'm Mark, and keep creating. We'll see you next time.